Shalom, Israel. What's going on today, peoples? I wanted to talk about a little something today that I thought was very important to us as men, us as women, and us coming up young in our generation and understanding what's really important in life. The things that we do in life is very important. What we leave behind as far as bringing forth children and leaving them in destitution, or multiplying them and giving them the things that they actually need, the necessities. So the conversation that I'm having today, or the lesson of this particular class, and I'm pretty sure some can maybe relate, maybe some can't relate. But when we see these things happening, we can see a pattern. So the thing that I'm talking about today is, are we leaving our children with the inheritance that they rightfully deserve? I say that again. Are we leaving our children with the inheritance that they righteously deserve? And I think it's very important to kind of weigh that option. I do understand that there is a generation, according to Proverbs 30 and 11, that there's a generation that does not honor father and mother. There's a generation that curses their father and does not honor their mother. And because of that, because we don't understand knowledge, because we forsake knowledge, God forsakes us. Not only does he forsake us, he also forsake our children. And this is the thing that I wanted to talk about, because it hurts to know when you're growing up in a single family household, whether you're born and living with your father, whether you're living with your mother, whether you're living with grandma, you start growing up without the inheritance or the necessities that you are supposed to have in life. So this is what I want to talk about today. Hopefully you guys can bear with me. Those that do have children, hopefully you can understand. Those that don't have children and you are thinking to have children, hopefully you can understand. Without further ado, I want to give all praise and honor to Yahweh. I want to give all praise and honor to Yahweh Shah, who the world calls ignorantly Jesus Christ. We're going to get into the lesson. And before I get into the lesson, let me just get a precept real quick. This is the book of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 19 and verse 22. The knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom, neither at any time the counsel of sinners prudence. Understanding that the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom. And you may kind of figure out, well, what is wickedness? One of the major wickedness, the wickedest things that we can do today is not follow the law, statutes, and commandments of God. When we don't take the knowledge, the understanding, the wisdom, the law, when we don't do it, there's a thing that happens against us. And these are the things that I wanted to bring about today. I think it's very important to understand that our action causes a reaction. So if we don't follow the law, statutes, and commandments, we go against God and every word that he says. we kind of go off. And when we are going off, there should be a man that should correct you. But the correction that we have today is very vague. I mean, it's very vague because nobody is taking out the time to instruct us properly. I say that again. Nobody is taking out the time to instruct us properly on how we delegate with one another, whether in marriage, whether with our children, in the relationships that we seek, the type of mate that we're looking for. You know, when it comes down to man seeking what type of woman I desire to have, or woman, whatever man she desires to have. These things are very important if we know it, but we don't know it because it's not taught to us. So it's going to come to a point where if we're not being taught by our elders and we're not going to teach the generation that we're bringing forth, we run into destruction. We continue to add wickedness, right? As long as I've been in this truth, there's a lot of things that I have seen that it kind of touch me in a way where it kind of hurts because we kind of continue to see the pattern continue to grow. Was I raised up in a 2-family household with a father and a mother? No, I was not. I wasn't even raised in a single-family household, but I was. I was raised in a household where my grandmother raised me. Not my father, not my mother, my grandmother. But my grandmother had 7 kids of her own. And out of 7 kids of her own, maybe 3 or 4 kids was living with her. And those 3 or 4 kids out of the 7 had kids also. So grandma being a single parent, playing daddy, mommy, granddaddy, and grandma, had to fulfill a void for not only her children, but also her grandchildren as well. And understanding that everybody got a different characteristic of things that they want and they desire. And grandma's trying to fulfill all of these things off of one budget. And it's tight to do that. When you have one budget of $107 in food stamps coming in, when you have only $200 of maybe unemployment a week coming in, these things is a struggle because you got so many mouths to feed in a 3-bedroom apartment, but you got 4 kids grown that's living with you. They have kids, maybe 2 or 3 each individual, that you're trying to bring up and you're trying to do the righteous things. Everybody can't get what they are desired to have, right? So we kind of grow up and we kind of miss certain things and we follow this trait. We don't change the trait. We don't change the generational curse. We figure one day when I get my own room, I'm going to be happy, right? In a crowded environment like that, the only thing you seek is to have your own room. If not your own room, to have something of your own possession. And when you get something of your own possession, you could kind of go a little over and beyond. Because now that you have your own, you feel as though you're grown. And that's a question that always since I've been in the truth, is a question that I ask myself is, yes, I do understand that they say 18 and 21 years old is when you're grown. But I don't think so. We have 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, we have 16-year-olds, 14-year-olds having babies. We have those same ages running away from home. We have those same ages joining gangs, joining the wrong things in life, because these are the desires that they seek, or these are the things that we have seen. And we get a pat on the back every now and again. Hey, you did good. You picked a good group of friends that you can run with, but they are wicked just as our parents was, right? So I don't want to go off too much with that, but I just wanted to express a point that we don't grow up and don't get me wrong, you do have certain children that do grow up that do have their mother and their father. Great to you. But even in that setting, there's still a generation from mommy and daddy that's together that does not bring up and give their children the inheritance that they desire, or the inheritance that they need, so they can continue to bring forth goodness, plant forth goodness in the earth, right? So, without further ado, I'm going to get into the lesson. I want to go to Hosea chapter 4 and verse 6. And I think it's very important to understand that particular precept, because without that precept or understanding of that precept, we put ourselves in a jam and we don't understand why, right? So I want to just bring some awareness to it. This is Hosea chapter 4 and verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And this is really a big thing in the children of Israel today. You know, we come up, we grow up, we don't grow up with this. We grow up with, I succeeded in high school, I may have went to college, I found my high school love, I fell in love with my high school love, I married my high school love, we had kids, now I'm bored, now I'm tired, I want something different, or I want to find somebody else, I want to seek other things in life, but I have kids now, I can't do certain things, I feel as though I'm restricted. You know, we start to grow an evil eye towards the things that we are already committed to, the one thing that we thought was a desire to us, right? And we don't actually seek out the truth. We just continue to live from generation to generation on the things that we was just told. We won't seek it out according to the law, statutes, and commandments of God. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Being as though we reject God and we reject his commandments, we reject his laws, we reject his mercy, we reject his faith, he's going to reject us, right? And when he rejects us, this is where Deuteronomy 28 verse 15 on down starts to take into play. When this particular path starts to take into play, we still don't consider a thing. And God knew that. He knew this, right? Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children. Now understand why he ain't say he just gonna forget us. What does the children have to do with it? Right? The children shouldn't have anything to do with it at that particular point in time. But understanding that we are the children of Israel and we are his special people, right? If we are his special people, I'm not just going to do this to you because you rejected me, but I'm going to do this to your generation so I could let you know how serious I mean about my business, how serious I mean about following my law, how serious I mean by keeping the knowledge of me and following my law and keeping my law, right? So If he, excuse me, if he forsakes our children, how does that look? Let's go into it. We have a situation where we have a lot of single families. Kid is living either with mommy, kid is either living with daddy. Mommy and daddy couldn't get along, right? So now you're either living with one of the two parents. And even during this time, we're living with one of the two parents, we end up still living with grandma somehow, because mommy or daddy drops us off on the weekend to grandma's house so they could go outside searching, going to search for another Vic, searching for that, to fill that void, that emptiness that they created. This is not something that the kid created. This is something that we created. Come to find out, I didn't really like this girl that much, but she got pregnant, right? How do we get that far? And I'm going to answer these questions. But we get this far because we still go off of our desires. And I know I probably said this before and probably sounds like a broken record. But if we are living in single family homes today, if you grew up in a single family home today, wouldn't you want better for your child? And how do you seek that, right? Being as though we forsook him, we are not considered priests to him. We are not considered holy. We are not considered righteous in his eyes. So being that we forsake knowledge, not only do he forsake us, he forsake our children. How does this thing look? We're going to go to Hosea chapter 5. We'll start from verse 4 and we'll read a few verses on down just to explain how these things go. This is Hosea chapter 5 and verse 4. They will not frame their doings to turn unto their God. For the spirit of whoredoms is in the midst of them, and they have not known the Lord. This is true, right? We won't frame our doings. We won't change our ways. We won't even consider that these things are just a continued process that we do, right? We have babies, we bring a baby, we get married, be together for a couple of years, get a divorce, or split up. Maybe have the kid before we get married and then split up, right? We don't keep the ways of God the way he taught us, according to the Lord's statutes and commandments. We have our own way. We have our own smarts. And because of our own smarts, we end up not forsaking God, but we forsake our children. We hurt our children in the process, right? So check this out. And the pride of Israel, verse 5, and the pride of Israel doth testify to his face. Therefore shall Israel and Ephraim fall in their iniquity. Judah also shall fall with them. Verse 6. They shall go with their flocks and with their herds to seek the Lord, but they shall not find him. He hath withdrawn himself from them. Verse 7. They have dealt treacherously against the Lord, for they have begotten strange children. Now shall a month devour them with their portions. I'm going to read that line again in verse 7. They have dealt treacherously against the Lord, for they have begotten strange children. We wind up having a child with this woman. I wind up leaving this woman. I wound up having a child with another woman because the woman that I had at the first, I decided I didn't really have a desire for her like that, but it was in the heat of the moment. And because it was in the heat of the moment, I'm leaving this woman. I'm gonna leave her bare and naked. I'm not gonna actually be a man and handle my responsibilities. So she decides to do a thing. What does she do? Now, shall a month devour them with their portions? She winds up taking us to court. She winds up taking us for child support. We wind up getting visitation rights. We might not even be in a position to even have a job to be able to take care of our kids. But we're forced now to go get a job, according to the judge that's in that black dress. And God forbid, if your judge is a woman at that point in time, she is not going to have mercy on you. Because what we don't realize is that that woman is a scornful woman. She's bitter. She ended up having a few bad relationships in her lifetime. She know what it is to be a single parent. So because she's a judge, the thing that she declares against you is never fair on your part. I don't know if you ever heard the slogan, a whole lot of fun for me and none for you. That's the way the judge plays when it comes down to child support. Now, I don't want you to get this twisted. You even have, right now, according to this generation, men, I say again, men, pathetic men with their tails between their legs, who take their penis and stick it between their legs and act like they got a coochie, will take a woman to child support. I think that is very weak on every level as far as being a man. Now, at the end of the day, does that still take away from the fact that we won't reframe our doings? No, it doesn't. I'm just stating a point that just as women would take a man to child support, we also have men that would take women to child support. So either way we look at it, there's still going to be a monthly fee according to the portions that we happen to take on. And how does these things come about? Why? Right? Yes, I do think it's a beautiful thing to bring forth children, but bring forth children right. Don't just think, to say the least, let me open my legs as a woman, or let me lay some pipe as a man, and thinking that that's the only thing that we can come with, and that makes us a man or make us a woman today. Because the thing that we're going to get out of that portion is a kid. And because we're going against the law, statutes, and commandments of God by doing this particular thing, not married, not actually looking to take each other for righteousness, but for lust only, we wind up bringing forth a child, and that child suffers. That child starts to sin and start to do things he doesn't even understand. There's nobody to correct it. Actually, it's actually forgiven according to the conditions that that child is in. Because you're in a single family household, everything that you're doing right now is called you acting out. And it's sad. So we wind up, either man or woman, start going through monthly payments, start paying child support, and God forbid you get backed up, you lose your job. Then you in arrears. And if you get caught up in arrears and you don't pay a certain portion, you would get 6 months in jail for not paying child support. You see how deep this rabbit hole goes when you forsake the law, statutes, and commandments of God? It gets deeper. You want to check that out. We're going to go to Isaiah chapter 3. And don't think for at least I'm looking to bash. I don't have any children of my own. Excuse me, Salakia. The fact that I don't have children of my own, the fact that I see these particular things, because I am witness to this. And if I love my neighbor as I love myself, I would like to see my neighbor who does have these things going on actually be aware of it. So now you understand why these things are happening. Hopefully you will want to seek the law, statutes, and commandments of God. Hopefully you want to get back to the righteous things that we are supposed to do, right? But nevertheless, as it says, we're not going to frame our ways. We're not going to frame our doings, right? So if I make it aware to you, I'm just making it aware. It's not that I hate. I'm not a hater at all. I wouldn't even be doing this Bible if I hated you. I love you that much to proclaim everything and every word that's in this Bible. According to Matthew chapter 4, verse 4, man is not supposed to live off of bread alone, but every word of God. And that man came and fulfilled every word of God to proclaim what's going to happen to you, to save you from your sins, and to be righteous, right? So, this is Isaiah chapter 3, and I'm going to start at verse 11. Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hands shall be given him. Verse 12. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. So, what do you think he mean by that? As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. We seek and desire the thing that the type of women that we desire, to be truthful, we're not seeking women in no sackcloth, right? We're not seeking the woman that has her body covered up because we don't know what she's working with. We seek the girl that got the eyelashes down to her nose. We seek the girl that got her lips with the lipstick on, the bamboo earrings, the hairstyle all nice, right? The nice weave. The tight dress that cuts her body and hugs her body real tight. Maybe show a little cleavage. Wear the nice tight dress to see the thigh muscle, right? These are the type of things that we seek. Our moms don't make us aware of these things as young men, right? What was that song? Don't trust a big butt and a smile. And this is one of the things that we end up doing. We wind up trusting a big butt and a smile, and that's all we need. As soon as we see that, that's it, right? But that one night of passion can bring us 18 years of disaster, right? She only liked me for a moment because I was a winner at that time, but there's other players that's out there in the street that's doing way bigger things than you are. And she might be desired to go to that. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err. We see these things happening, right? We told to move on. Oh, move on in life, She's not worth it. Don't waste your time on her. You can find you a new wife. You can find you a new girl. You can make you a new family. Can we really? If I have a family with one woman today, this was my wife at the first. I had a family with her. Now we're divorced. Can I go and take another wife, make another family, and that's A-okay? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, it brings upon where even if I do this thing, yes, I can physically do it. Is it right though? It's really not. I can bring forth and go ahead and go and have me another family, but guess what? My first kid despised that new family that I got because I'm doing happier things with them, my second family, right? That kid may be living with me. My first kid is not. These things bring upon jealousy. The wife feels as though, well, the person that you're with now, I think you was messing with them behind my back. So you know what? I'm gonna go back to the courts, see if we can raise the child support a little bit more. These things is actually real, right? So according to that, let's go to Sirach, chapter 23. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 23 and verse 21. This man shall be punished in the streets of the city, and where he suspecteth not, he shall be taken. Right? We end up putting ourselves in a situation with the type of women that we take and the type of decisions that we make. And we wind up getting punished. We wind up getting embarrassed, right? Let's say you living in a neighborhood, man, where everybody know the baby mother that you took. Everybody is digging in your baby mother. Or what about the woman that has a baby father? Every woman got her hands on your baby father. And you embarrassed of this thing. Man, y'all, I wish I didn't have a kid with this person. You hearing all the unrighteous things that's happening, and you like, man, I wish I never had a kid with this person, right? This brings the embarrassment in the street. And the man, especially, because he can't even see his kid. You even got certain ones where you can't even see your kid, and you paying your child support. You doing your right. So this thing right here that goes on is only because we forsake the knowledge of God, because we won't frame our ways. But it gets a little deeper, right? As Isaiah told us, children is our oppressors and women rule over us. That's the only thing we desire. Our women, the women that we chase, not to say that women are wicked, but they are to a degree, and it's only because they are ignorant to know what's right and what's wrong. And there's no man to actually raise up and actually state and say, you know what? Let me actually, if I'm going to take this woman, I'm going to take this woman for righteousness, not lust. Let me get a precept on that. We're going to go to Tibet. We're going to go to Tobit, chapter 8. This is the book of Tobit, chapter 8, and verse 7. And now, O Lord, I take not this, my sister, for lust, but uprightly. So at the end of the day, when we are taking our women today, we got to take them for uprightly, righteousness. We can't just take them just for the lust. Yo, she got the nice body. She had them eyes. Yo, you seen that thing? Whew. She got it, right? I'm going to leave a baby in that. You already, that night, you thought to leave a baby in it. You ain't think, to say the least, let me figure out what she's about. Let me see exactly what's going on with her, right? We're not seeking out these particular things. Only thing we see is the flesh. Because we see the flesh, we see a sexual desire. And that sexual desire bring us into a situation where a kid comes out of it. After the kid comes out of it, you kind of regret that night. And it's sad when it's like that. Because not the woman suffer necessarily, not so much as you suffer necessarily, but your kid suffers. Because you ain't have the knowledge to know not to, if you seen this particular girl looking like this, she can be a harlot, but you don't know this, right? Because there's a generation that curses their father, and I hate the Bible, and will not honor their mother. So you will never understand what is a harlot and what's not a harlot, what's righteous and what's from lust. You will never understand it. Now, a young man who was living in that type of lifestyle, who saved himself and kind of had his eyes open from that and said, damn, you know what, I'm not really willing to put myself in a situation. I don't want to get paid by my portion. I don't want to be subject to monthly payments in a court system paying to see my kid. When I made this kid, where was that judge at when I was making this kid? Nowhere. But because of your unrighteous doings, because you won't frame your ways, this is what you're subjected to now. So when you step out of your natural way, of the things that you know is not right, you kind of see certain things clearly. I don't have a veil over my eyes no more. I can actually see the things that's right and the things that's wrong. Now, it would be a bad choice for me to take part in the thing that I know is wrong and say, well, you know what, I think I can do better because I'm a nice guy. There was no such thing, right? So, understanding that when we start to take our sisters, our women today, as the children of Israel, we need to take them for uprightly sake, not for lust. That's the first beginning of that's knowledge right there within itself. When we start seeking the ways in the law, statutes, and commandments of God, that's the one thing we are supposed to do. If she's a widow, if she's fatherless, you don't make her transgress the law. You take her for uprightly. You take her uprightly. You don't make her transgress the law and just take her for lust. Just because she's destitute, because she's ignorant, because you have an opportunity where you can get to deceive her, right? Let me get second Esdras, because this is what happens when we wind up taking our women for lust and then continue to go down this rabbit hole. This is the book of second Esdras, chapter 15. And I'm going to read a couple of verses in this. Verse 47. Woe be unto thee, thou wretch, because thou hast made thyself like unto her. This is God letting us be known at the end of the day, we've done took part of the things that is going on in Babylon so much. The parties, the new drinks that they got out, the new drugs that they're allowing to be put out, right? The new clothing that they got, that they are putting out. And Babylon done made this into somewhat of an opportunity. Great America done made these things that we are doing right now somewhat of an opportunity to escape whatever it is that you're going through. Your tough times, go out to a party, go have a drink. Ease your mind, right? And we wind up going to do these particular things. And when we go to do these particular things, we don't even really realize that we're destroying ourselves more. We'll walk away way more from the law, statutes, and commandments when you do these particular things, right? So like as I said earlier, mommy or daddy, when they do have this kid, they drop little mamas off or little boy off to grandma's house and go out to the party and go look for some new stuff. Bring that home. Have a good night of passion and fun. Getting her pregnant. Now you're dealing with another situation. We be having 2, 3 kids in with 3 different 4 baby mothers. I mean, really? Woe be unto thee, thou wretch, because thou hast made thyself like unto her, and hast decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers, which have alway desired to commit whoredom with thee. Verse 48. Thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions. Therefore, saith God, I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste thy houses with destruction and death. I'm going to read that line again, verse 49. I will send plagues upon thee. What happens when, as he was mentioning, we wind up taking our daughters and decking them in whoredoms. We allow our women to gad abroad and get the long eyelashes. We allow our women to wear the fake weaves and straighten their hair and want to look like America's Next Top Model with the shortest dress on and, the high heels and the things of that nature. I'm not saying that you don't have the right to look beautiful. I'm not saying that. But there's a certain way to conduct ourselves, especially as young kings and young queens, according to God, right? If we are his children, you mean to tell me dressing up in the way that we're dressing up today, you got men 50 years old with their pants under their ass cheeks, they drawers showing, a snapback to the back of their head, listening to Drake, the baby. Young men. Still trying to live that young life. So it's the reason why I asked today, what is considered grown? Because if you have 50-year-olds that's listening to young guys that's 20 years old, that don't got no kind of common sense. I don't think 21 years old means that you're grown at that point. Just because you pay your child support doesn't mean that you're grown at that point. Just because you pay your rent doesn't mean that you're grown at that point. You're still stuck in ignorance. I will send plagues upon thee. What is a plague? So we wind up going out into these streets, wind up finding a nice little young lady who was decked in whoredom, not knowing she's burning, got chlamydia, she might have TB, she might even have coronavirus. You don't even know. And we get caught up and knocked down. Widowhood. Now, at the end of the day, we done got a lot of single mothers that's running around here today with 2 and 3 and 4 kids. Not with a man. They're trying to find a man that's willing to accept them. But they got the nerve to have standards. If I got 3 or 4 kids, I want a man that don't got no kids. How can you even want that? Right? Poverty. There's not enough to go around because here it is, you don't have a babysitter or a righteous man to step in to think, to say the least. Let me take care of my kid and the kids that you do have, because no man really is looking to do that. That ain't my kid. Where's your baby father at for those other 2 or those other 3? Tell them to come and handle their responsibilities, right? So that means that you can't get a job. And if you do get a job, it's a job that has to be flexible according to the schedule of your kids. So your kids wind up suffering because you're in poverty. You can't make the money that you need to make. famine. That means that the kids ain't eating. There's not enough to really go around. So you try to send them to grandma's house because maybe grandma could be able to feed the kid, right? These kids struggle and pay for the very the very desires that us as grown adults supposedly go through in life. For every action we have, there's a reaction. Every time we go against God's word, there's going to be something that's going against us for us to remember it by. Sword, we wind up getting cut down. Certain kids wind up starving to death because ain't no food in the house. Nobody is providing. Yet, there's still whoredom going on in the household. There's still men coming through every now and again. There's still women coming through every now and again. But ain't no food coming with it. Just fun. Just alcohol, weed, and whatever else. Just for a good time. And that kid don't eat nothing but a hot dog, maybe, luckily, or a bowl of cereal. And pestilence. To waste thy houses with destruction. We done have there's so many divorces in our community that is unrealistic, right? When he say I'm gonna destroy houses, that means that there's gonna be really, literally, single family households. And I would think, to say the least, this Bible is a lie if I did not see that there was a single family household. There's a girl or a man that's suffering this right now to this day. And they may be lucky to have a girlfriend that's willing to tolerate that kid. They willing to be there for that kid, willing to hold this kid down, willing to feed this kid, willing to love this kid and nourish this kid. But then she starts to get baby fever and she wants her own kid of her own. What do you do in this situation right here? It's tough when you really look at it like that, right? And death. I'm going to go a little bit deeper to understand exactly what it is that I'm talking about as far as this, because the woman that's decked in whoredom is a very important thing to really understand. When we deck our daughters, when our parents take our daughters and say, yo, find you a man that's going to respect you. Find you a man that got some money. According to Lamentations chapter 4, verse 2. First and foremost, I don't even want to paraphrase it. I don't want to paraphrase it. Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 2. The precious sons of Zion. We all know that Zion means a Hebrew man, an Israelite. An Israelite is the highest level of a man that you can ever get, right? That's a high valued man, an Israelite. Check this though. The precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold. We are comparable to fine gold, but yet, if you don't act like that, if you don't put yourself in a situation where you know that, and you perform the works of what a fine gold is supposed to be. Gold is supposed to shine. So you take that gold, you rub it in the dirt, man, right? Put some stuff on it, some extra stuff on it. You take away the pureness of that gold. That's not gold no more. It's crap. It's good for nothing. You're not considered high value no more. So when we don't frame our ways, we're not considered as fine gold no more, right? So it's very important to understand that. So when we take our women and our daughters and we deck them with whoredom, what does whoredom look like? Let's go to Proverbs chapter 7. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 7, and verse 10. And behold, there met him a woman with the attire of an harlot and subtile of heart. She is loud and stubborn. Her feet abide not in her house. And how many, these is not to say the least now, that this ain't true, because how we even get the baby mothers that we have today? How do we even get the husbands that we have today? We met in the street, right? We got the attire of an harlot. The man got the nice designer clothes on. Nowadays, we got a man that's running around with a pouch across his chest. I'd rather see this man now. It's going to get to a point where a man is going to be walking around with a Gucci purse on his shoulder, and this is going to be accepted. A man is going to be able to put a dress and high heels on next and proudly do it every day. Not just for a photo shoot like Lil Nas X, but every day this man is going to do this particular thing, right? This is what we see. We see our women dressed half naked, right? So we wind up running and looking for harlots way more than we're looking for the woman that's covered up, looking for the woman that got grace, that's not thinking about going to no clubs, that's not drinking, that's not smoking, that's actually of grace, that's persevering. It's kind of hard to even get the time of the day with her because she's so persevering. She's always keeping herself busy in something. But the woman that's not busy in nothing, but she'll make it seem, oh, I'm a little busy today, but maybe we could get up tomorrow. The fair woman, it's only because she's not abiding in her own house. She out in the street. Watch this. She is loud and stubborn. Her feet abide not in her house. Now is she without, now in the street, and lieth in wait at every corner. So she's willing to go into any place that she can possibly find any type of attention. Any type of attention. She don't really care, right? She don't really care. Long as somebody is willing to give her some attention, pay some type of tribute to her, give her some type of way, some type of time, she's willing to take that. And we run right into this, and we so simple-minded. We ain't learned from the last girlfriend that we ran into on the last corner, and we run into the same dead end, right? We try to change this thing, not knowing that we are still chasing our desire. It's nothing new, same old thing. Just recycling each other. So we're not seeking our sisters that's of grace and the women that's covered up. We're seeking the ones that's dressed in the attire of an harlot. So if we are doing these particular things, we bring forth a kid. Once we bring forth a kid, we decide that we don't want to be with this woman no more, but that thought wasn't there that night. Where was that thought that night, that process that night? Now you got to pay every month for 18 years of your life child support to a woman now that at the end of the day, she going to take that child support money, piece a little bit off to make sure she get her new dress, get her new ear, get her new eyes, little eyelids, right? Eyelashes, get that new hair, and go out and find another man with the money that you working hard for. And you don't even get the chance to see your kid. All because we won't reframe our ways. All because we won't even seek the law, statutes, and commandments of God. This woman winds up meeting a new man. She's happy, supposedly. You wind up meeting a new girl. You happy, supposedly. You have a baby, she have a baby. That man leave her, the girl might stay with you. And because of this factor, now you're paying child support, but your kid don't even get to eat as much because now she's taking the child support money that you're paying and she's splitting it between two kids. and only one of them is yours. Now you may think, to say the least, well, I don't mind helping out because that's his little brother. Okay. But if you're really examining the thing, that 17% that she's taking out of your check, that whatever you agreed to as far as a payment, your kid still struggles. Your kid still suffers because it's not just going to your kid, it's going to somebody else's kid. So now you got to now inquisition is being made between this woman. Who's this child that you got with? Or you had a child with a hustler, but he's not paying his portion, but I work 40 hours a week. I pay my portion and my kid still doesn't have enough to eat. These are the things that's going to continue to go on. Do we not have this in the land of the children of Israel? Do we not have this as a people collectively? And would you acknowledge, after these precepts that I'm bringing towards you, that it's because we won't refrain our ways and do the law, statutes, and commandments of God? You may say, well, nah, I don't believe that. I believe that these things that's going on, me paying child support, me having a desire to have 3 and 4 kids by different baby mothers, me having 3 or 4 kids by different baby fathers, it just happened by chance. Okay. Maybe. I don't quite agree with that, but maybe. Let's go to Sirach chapter 28. Let's go back to there. Because now, there's a thing that happens when we do these particular things. I'm sorry. This is Ecclesiasticus, chapter 23 and verse 22. Thus shall it go also with the wife that leaveth her husband, and bringeth in an heir by another. For first, she have disobeyed the law of the Most High, and secondly, she have trespassed against her own husband, and thirdly, she have played the whore in adultery, and brought children by another man. She shall be brought out into the congregation, and inquisition shall be made of her children. Like I was mentioning before, who you had children with. So, is my kid affected by this? Are you dating gangsters and thugs that's in the street? And my kid, if your husband don't feel like you are doing the right things according to him, and he decides to not to be a man of the house that particular moment of time, he decides to put his hands on you. Is he putting hands on my children too? Right? These are the things that a man always want to know. Especially when he knows that he doesn't have the power to take care of his own kid in his own household. It's a tough situation. But like the Father said, being as though you forsook me, I'm going to forsake your children too. When I see these things, if I did have a kid knowing that these things are happening or did happen, real quick, I put my hands, your Father, I repent. Show me the ways that you want me to walk, and I'm going to do that. You want me to love my neighbor as I love myself and proclaim my sin? I'm willing to do so. You want me to stop? You want me to stop from sinning? I'm willing to do so. Am I perfect? No. But when I see that myself is falling, I'm willing to get back up and do the righteous things. That's what brings forth perfection. Is willing to try again. But you got people that's not willing to try again. You got people that's not willing to listen. You got people that got faith that's not strong enough. Right? Verse 25. Her children shall not take root, and her branches shall bring forth no fruit. She shall leave her memory to be cursed, and her reproach shall not be blotted out. And they that remain shall know that there is nothing better than the fear of the Lord, and that there is nothing sweeter than to take heed unto the commandments of the Lord. Ain't nothing better than doing that, right? So when we see in these particular matters, you should want to do better. You should want to act right. You should want to help your neighbor understand, like, yo, the things that we are doing is definitely wrong, right? These things is happening to me, bro. I realized that at the end of the day, I was forsaking the law, statutes, and commandments of God I shouldn't have. And we are all collectively doing this as men. Let's correct our way as men, because now we have a generation that's coming up behind us. Just as we forsook the law, they're going to forsake the law too, because they're only going to follow the thing that they seen their fathers do. The daughters are only going to do the same things that they seen their mothers do. A leopard never changes his spots. So, you may think, to say the least, well, are you just rumbling? I'm not. I'm not at all. And this goes back to 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verse 47 through 49 on what I'm talking about. This is the book of the law called Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall be upon thee. Now remember what we just read in Ecclesiasticus when he was letting it be known. This curse shall be upon her, right? Moreover, all these curses shall be upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee. Now don't get it twisted. This is not just woman. This is also man too. I don't just bash women. I also bash man too. If man is wrong, man is wrong. If woman is wrong, woman is wrong. I can't judge one without the other. So this is not me just picking on women. This is not that at all. I'm exposing exactly, one, how children get here in the first place. Women don't just bring forth kids by just laying by themselves. No, a man lays with her. They have the pleasure and they bring forth children. One decides to get a little prideful. One decides to get a little hateful. And the two go against each other. And because that goes against each other, you cannot stay together. So if you don't stay together, then obviously there comes a split. And there becomes a split. Now this child grows up into a single family household. And this kid gets forsaken because he's not getting the things that he is supposed to get. He's not going to have mother and father. He's not going to be no different from any other kid that was born in wedlock. Verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. Verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So this is one way, and considering, especially when it comes to our single family homes, of the children of Israel, who we are today. This is what we do. We wind up leaving our sons, leaving our daughters in a tight situation that they will never understand until, hopefully, when they get older, we can be able to break it down to them and explain to them the reason why me and your mother is not together. And we don't even tell the truth even in that. Let me drop down to verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave, so that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children, whom he shall eat, because he hath nothing left him in the siege, and in the straitness, wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in all thy gates. So you got to remember, we are scattered into four corners of the earth. We are in the hands of our oppressors. We decide to seek for a desire because whoever is bringing us up tell us to go ahead and move on in life. Go ahead and have fun in life. Live your life. Go out and drink. Go be sociable. Right? Go have a good time. Meet you a nice guy. Meet you a nice girl. And we do this thing. And we get knocked off. We ended up with a woman that wasn't right for us. We end up going to child support. We go crying to our parents. Our parents tell us to move on. Don't worry about it. You're going to find somebody special. I ain't find nothing special about reading these curses that's falling upon my people. It's nothing special about that. It's actually sad and depressing and sick and ignorant when you say, well, we don't have to do the law, statutes, and commandments of God because there's no point. But when you see these things happening in real life, these is not happening to mice. These are not happening to your local lab rats. These are happening to human beings. There's nothing left of this man in the straightness. This man is in an oppressed state. He's trying to do the best that he could possibly do. His back is against the wall out of all of the stress that he's going through. But it's because his priorities was twisted, because he won't reframe his ways. These are the reasons why these things are happening. It's not just a young man though, neither. Verse 56, the tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground of delicateness and tenderness. She won't even set her foot or her ways to this Bible. She won't even look at it. She won't even consider it. Her eye shall be evil toward her husband of her bosom. She's going to hate her. She's going to hate her baby father. I'm pretty sure if you heard that. I hate my baby father. I hate the way he is. I wish I never had a kid with him. You heard this before. You even have certain men that even say that. I wish I never had a baby with her. I mean, I'm glad that I got my child, but if I had to do it differently, man. Yeah, you understand it now that you are under the curse. You can correct this thing, actually do right, but you're not willing to. You're not willing to frame your ways. Her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter. That's deep. Verse 57. And toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear. For she shall eat them for want of all things secretly in the siege and straitness. She's going to eat them for the want of all things. She's going to have a desire for things that's in this world. She's feeling as though, well, you know what? I got this child now, and the man that I was with, he's not man enough. I need another man that could be able to step in and help me out with this. Who's willing to step up and be a real man, who got some money, going to take care and provide for me. So she's willing to drop off little mamas or little homie, little king to grandma's house and go find this man. For she shall eat them for want of all things secretly in the siege and straightness, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gate, just as the men of the children of Israel is under the oppression of this other nation, our women as well. And because of this factor, she has a want of all things and a desire to still keep on pushing, because this is what she's told. Oh, you'll find you another man. That man was weak. Forget that man. Find you a man that's willing to take you and your child in and willing to be the father of your child, willing to sign the birth certificate of that child. Or find you a woman that's willing to take on the responsibility of the child that you had with this woman, willing to raise and give you another kid and give her a little brother or a little sister. Continue to do this thing, do that, right? And because these things go on, the woman sees this as competition. She sees this as a way to use your kid against you. Because you want to play mommy over there, I'm not going to allow no woman or no man to be around my kid and be father to my kid. So we start to put rules on things. We still don't reframe our ways. We start to put rules on things, on what we are not going to allow in our single family homes that we created. Hosea 4:6, I'm just tired of seeing. And there's nothing that I can do about it, because I can't fight the Lord. I can't beat him. I won't even challenge him. What I can do is love my neighbor as I love myself and proclaim that these things are happening, these things are real, and we need to take heed. Now that we do have little kings and little queens coming up after us, let's give them the things that we didn't actually was able to benefit for ourselves or do ourselves. Let's frame their ways now, while we have the opportunity, before they're grown. Before they hit you with the line, because I'm 18, I'm 21 years old, I could do what I want. And then you wind up letting your kids say, well, you know what, I'm going to let them live and learn. That's not really a way of bringing forth a kid. You know? I thought that this was a very important lesson that I wanted to bring forth as one of my lessons of a Sabbath. There's many things that's very important according to us keeping to the law, statutes, and commandments of ways of God. But, like Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 46, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. These curses that we are facing is going to be upon us for a sign and a wonder, and on our seed forever. And just like he told us in Hosea 4:6, just as you forsake me, I'm going to forsake your children. And our children pay for the very actions that we bring forth today. Don't get me wrong, you have certain single family homes of mothers that actually handle their business. They're not looking for another guy. They're actually building with their children, making sure that their children go to school, making sure that their children get good grades, making sure that they get the things that is important in life. You have certain fathers that's trying to do the same thing. We can do a little bit more, especially if we're lacking at giving them the law, statutes, and commandments of God. Something that if we're not following it, let's make sure that they follow it. We're not going to be here forever. And if we're not going to be here forever for our children, the one thing that a parent wants to know before they leave this earth is my son or is my daughter going to be financially stable? Are they going to be okay? There's no greater riches than to give them the law, statutes, and commandments of God. I mean, I'm going to be truthfully honest with you. And if we do these things, we won't have no more single family homes coming up from the next generation after us. We won't have children being stuck in starvation. Our women will actually be uprightly instead of portraying themselves for lust, looking for just another man just to be able to fill a void because they're lonely. We won't be looking, our men won't be portraying themselves as harlots themselves. They'll actually become kings. We'll actually be taking our sisters for uprightly when we're seeing that they're wrong, or we're seeing that they're widows, or we're seeing that they're fatherless, or we're seeing that the ignorance in them, and they're starting to want to go and gad abroad and stand on every corner and be dressing up whoredom, decking themselves in that, right? Could warn a person by allowing them to understand these particular things that's befalling us. That's a very big part of loving your neighbor as you love yourself. So without further ado, that was just my lesson for today. I hope that we start to learn to reframe our ways and take heed of what our children is going to be going through. I think it's very important. So without further ado, I want to give all praises, all glory, and all honor to Yahweh for giving me the power to express this message. I want to give all praise and honor and glory to Yahweh Shah for giving me the power to express this message. I hope my brothers and sisters understand. I'm not a hater, I'm not looking to hate. I'm just bringing some awareness, some attention, something that we can take heed to. It's very important. So peace and blessings, family. I love y'all. Keep on striving. Keep on enduring through this book. Those that just came into the truth, stick with this. Stick with it. Stick with it. Keep on trying. Keep on trying. Keep on enduring. Our time is almost up. Things is going to get a little bit better soon, but you still have to do your part, right? So, in closing, we say Shalom.